The Detroit Lions just got a wave of great news. And honestly, right now, Brad Holmes reminds me of Liam Neeson from Taken. Remember that movie where his daughter Kim got stolen from her by those kidnappers? And then the iconic scene where he's on the phone with them, chatting with them, and he's like, I don't have a lot of money, but I do have a very particular set of skills. I will find you, and you know how the rest of it goes, right? Well, Brad Holmes, very interestingly, is like Liam Neeson, in my opinion. He's got no money, but that man has a very particular set of skills. He is absolutely going to go into this draft season and this free agency season and smash. Now, I've got some good news around free agency, specifically in the offensive line front. I also want to talk about some combine meetings that the Detroit Lions are having, as well as just some grades around the team and just some prospects that are going to move around the draft board, especially on the edge front. We're going to talk about all of those things in this episode. But again, me and my friends, we're breaking down NFC North content every single day. If you are a diehard Lions fan, subscribe to the channel and join the community. But again, first things first, Brad Holmes, not a lot of money. This dude right here, negative $10 million so far on the cap. We know that in a couple weeks, he's got to get under that negative cap space with the top 51, or else they get fines and other things going on. So it's going to happen. There's a couple other moves actually, there's a bunch of moves the Lions could make. They could cut a couple players, they could trade a couple players, but they also at the same time could restructure some contracts, add some void years, add some guarantee, or add some, prorated money onto contracts. They've got a lot of things they could do. But the thing that's really gripping my eye right now is this rumor right now. I don't know if you saw this yesterday. I don't believe it, but ESPN's Dan Graziano says the Lions are in the trade market, or they're looking to trade Sam Laporta. Now, I want to substantiate maybe some of this with who the Lions are meeting with in the combine, but this is really interesting to me. I just got to be honest with you. My wife has a huge crush on Sam Laporta, which is like such a weird thing to say, but she loves Sam Laporta. She loves his stash, and you know what? He got it from me. No, but Sam Laporta is a key asset to the team. But really, with the things that have been going on with him with injury, are we going to get a second or third round pick for him? Are we going to get something of value from him? He is a key contributor to the Lions offense, except for the fact that he's been so injured. However, when you look at who the Lions have been going out and meeting with, they're having all of these informal interviews with all of these different tight ends. Even Marlon Klein from Michigan, they're going out and they're having these formal sit-down meetings with tight ends. Is that writing on the wall that the Detroit Lions, that Brad Holmes right now in the draft is eyeing adding a tight end to the room? Now, of course, we've got a couple other guys that have been on the team over the years, the Brock Wrights, the Zylstras, all these other guys. But Sam Laporta's injury, I think, is creating a space where Brad Holmes is once again looking at the tight end market. It would infuriate me if we took tight end in the first round. I forgot the guy's name, Sadiq or whatever it might be. I think he was playing for Oregon. He's a very good tight end. He's a little undersized, but he's not just, please no Eric Ebron situations. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, how you're feeling about these rumors and really what you're thinking about and why the Lions are meeting with all these different tight ends. And again, I want to talk a little bit here about the interior offensive line and just some of the things happening around the league, because the things happening around the league also affect the things in the Lions building. First and foremost, Commanders are releasing center Tyler Biadasz, who's a starting center. He's 28 years old. So he's kind of at the tail end of the prime of his career, but 28 is still a very young, especially for interior offensive line. This is a guy who the Lions could bring in and pay and fix our center issue. That would be a huge addition at this point early on in free agency. It would free us up going into the draft. It would give us a leg up, I think, as in comparison to last year. But again, there's a lot of guys on the open market. I'm thinking about Connor McGovern from the Bills and what he could bring to the Lions organization, especially with what he's learned and what he's experienced with really that elite rushing attack with James Cook and that elite quarterback play with Josh Allen. They've had a really good offensive line there. But Tyler Biadasz right here, I think what he does to the interior offensive line market, especially the center market, is that he lowers the demand, or rather, he increases the potential for us to pay a guy less money because there's going to be a little bit less demand because there's more players in the pool for people to give money to. In other words, we can potentially get a better deal on a guy because there's more and more of these moves happening. Centers and guards are being released around the league, and there's a saturated pool that the Lions could absolutely pull from. That's a very good piece of news. But yesterday at the Combine, there was a bunch of edges and defensive tackles that were doing all these drills. You know, David Bailey is going to be an insane talent. He's got Hutchinson level upside. He's totally out of the Lions' reach. There's no way we could trade up to get a guy like David Bailey. But a guy like Keldrick Falk that we've met with, or the Lions have met with, has been on people's minds. Akeem Mesidor has been on people's minds. But two guys right now that I'm a little weary of is again, Cassius Howell, and even, Reuben Bain is just incredible. But man, I'm a little worried with the arm length stuff. Am I crazy for that? What do you guys think about those metrics with the arm length? I know when they talk about like Kenny Pickett and hand size and some of these other things, it can be crazy and it doesn't really matter all the time. And look to look to the production that was on the field and all of that. But really, when I'm looking at some of the arm length for edge players, especially, I want someone with a Myles Garrett wingspan who's like otherworldly with his freak athlete profile, but also his just ability to just dominate offensive tackles. We saw this with the Patriots with Will Campbell in the Super Bowl. He got absolutely demolished. And you know what? The big knock on him last draft cycle was this arm length thing. 3 years ago, if you would have been like, hey, Colin, arm length really does matter in the NFL, I would have been like, ain't no way. Like, these players are so good. But I think the transition from college to the NFL, especially with the people that you're going to consistently, the size of men that you are going to go up against, it does matter. Arm length really does matter, but you know what? The Lions very much so should be looking for edge in the first round. Some of these dudes showed out yesterday. Regardless if it's in the first or the second round, there's a lot of really good, talented players for Lions to pick at edge. But not only that, a couple other things to kind of finish out this video here today. The NFLPA grades came out, and you know what? The ownership grade really surprised me for the Lions. Actually, it surprised me not because of the recency around the Detroit Lions, but it surprised me over the last 25, 50 years of the Lions. 5 years ago, there's no way that this grade was an A for the Lions. The Lions have done an absolute PR flip in the last 5 years, ever since getting rid of Patricia, ever since bringing in Dan Campbell, and just this new regime has just done an outstanding job. We know that Rod Wood's stepping down and moving on from the Lions, and I actually didn't see if there's anything else to come of that, if we've added a president or anything, but the Lions ownership has been great. But not only has the ownership been great, the Lions, the players love Dan Campbell. It's not a question in anybody's mind. He's one of the top 5 graded by players, head coaches in the NFL. Now, there's some issues here. Would I love the Lions to be playing on a real grass field? Yes, I would. Is it reasonable in Detroit? No, not really, but it could be really good. But there's a lot of grades on here that don't surprise me, but there is one that actually did surprise me. The lowest grade on all of it was the John Morton grade, was the offensive coordinator grade being a C-. That's going to be a stain on Dan Campbell's resume going into the future years. Now, they did very clearly in the middle of the season make a change at play calling, obviously moved on from Morton. I think he's now with the Broncos or something like that. But this is one of those things right here where overall the Lions, I'm really, really excited still about the front office. I'm excited about the coaching staff, who they've brought in at key positions. Drew Petzeg was getting flamed by fans and by media, but he is going to be a great hire. Not only that, the Lions are meeting with safeties. Again, one of the top safeties, in my opinion, in this entire class overall, Bud Clark. What's going on with Kirby Joseph? We're seeing the acupuncture. We're seeing a bunch of stuff around him, but we don't know if he's truly going to be back and be who he was. It wouldn't surprise me if in the second round, it wouldn't surprise me if in the first round we go out and get an edge. In the second round, we get a safety, or vice versa. Or it wouldn't surprise me on top of those if we got some interior offensive line help in in specifically free agency. But overall, though, I just got to end on this, guys. If you didn't watch the Combine last night, you have got to be absolutely blown away by this guy right here, Sonny Styles. I bring this graphic up. There's a lot of ones I could have brought up, but just look at this. Kelvin Johnson, otherworldly talent, otherworldly player, best receiver ever to play the game, not by stats, but by absolute domination and skill. Him and Stafford were so fun to watch when I was a kid. But again, height the same. Sonny Styles is heavier, and you know what? He basically runs the same 40 time. He's got a bigger vertical. He is a linebacker. There is, even a couple years ago, there was the guy drafted by Arizona that was like, man, he's going to be a linebacker who can play safety, who can cover tight ends, who can cover receivers. But this guy seemingly truly can do it. Number one graded linebacker prospect out of 3,200 in the last 25 years or something like that of relative athletic scores. He is absolutely going to be an all-pro someday. If he's got it between the ears, he's going to be incredible. I think it was only Luke Kuechly and one other guy who were right there with him as the top linebackers. He's going to be really good. He's going to be fun to watch. You guys know I love football. I love just seeing how these guys develop. Sonny Styles is going to be really fun to watch. Can he be a Jack Campbell? We'll see. Jack Campbell's a pretty good player. Hey, all that being said, have a great day. We'll see you later. Go Lions.